Today we are going to talk about, drum roll, charting your temperature.
I see the crystal raindrop.
Hi, thanks for clicking on Simply Tanika. I am Tanika. Welcome to Cycle Science Sunday. Today we are going to talk about, drum roll, charting your temperature. Why would you chart your temperature? Good question. So charting your temperature is a good way to check your fertility. There are two other ways to also check your fertility and track your cycle. They are your cervical position and your cervical mucus. We're just going to go over charting temperature today. It is part of what is known as the Fertility Awareness Method, or FAM for short. I learned it from this book by Tony Weschler, Taking Charge of Your Fertility. If you're on the message boards, you've probably seen it before, just as the acronym TCYF. I highly recommend getting this book. So basal body temperature is what you're going to check, and basal just means it's your resting body temperature. So in order to get your resting body temperature, the first thing you need to do is sleep for at least 5 hours. And you want to have not had alcohol before you went to sleep, because that will increase your body temperature. And if you have less than 5 hours of sleep, your body hasn't had time to fully rest, and so the temperature is going to be a little wonky. So yeah, got it? You want to sleep for 5 hours, no alcohol, take your temperature. If you work shift work or at night, this is not recommended to chart your fertility, just because you're not going to have enough resting time. There are different theories on it. You can Google it, but like normally if you're sleeping in the daytime, I've read that it just raises your body temperature. So if you're sleeping in the daytime, I guess like 5 days a week, and you have the same schedule, you should be okay. But if you're doing shift work where it's like 5 to 1 one night and 3 to 7 another night, you're going to have a hard time getting an accurate reading on your temperature. The second thing you want to do is leave the thermometer in your mouth for 10 minutes before you press the button. I know that sounds crazy, but that gives the thermometer enough time to actually read your body temperature. Sure, you can put it in straight away when you wake up, press the button, it's going to give you a reading. That's its job. It's not going to be an accurate reading. And I've tested this out. I've done it immediately upon rising, 5 minutes and 10 minutes. I just find that the 10 minutes is most consistent. So that's what I recommend. I also recommend, if you get a thermometer, get one that has a backlight. I did not research that before I got it, so in order to see what my temperature is, I have to turn on the lights. I am not a morning person. That is not pleasant. It would be easier if it just had a backlight and I could squint and see what my temperature was and then put it in my app. Alright, the next thing after this, so we are getting 5 hours of sleep, not having alcohol, taking our temperature first thing when we rise. We're going to leave the thermometer in our mouth for 10 minutes before we press the button to get a reading. And then the third thing is you want to take your temperature around the same time every day. So if you get up at 7, the first thing you do is you pop the thermometer in your mouth, wait 10 minutes, and press that button and get your reading. Right? Pretty straightforward. The reason is you don't want a great variance. So if you take it at 7 a.m. one morning and you wake up at 9 the next morning, it's just not a good baseline, which is why if you're doing shift work and your schedule is rotating, it makes it difficult and it's not recommended for that. So that's pretty straightforward, right? Awesome. Now, what are you doing with all of these temperatures? You're going to put it in a chart, which is why it's called Charting Your Fertility. Alright, so here's the Fertility Friend app, and you can see where I charted my temperature. You can see that rise of 3 higher temperatures. Usually for me it's over 98. Your results may vary. Then it goes up. If there's a pregnancy, you'll have a triphasic chart, which it will go up twice, but we'll get into that later. Here's just kind of a quick look of what a chart looks like. Okay? So you're going to just enter in the time that you took your temperature and what your temperature reading is every single day when you wake up. This will tell you if you ovulated or not. How will it tell you that? You're going to get a rise in your temperature. If it stays high for 3 days, then that very first high was the first day after ovulation. So your temperature rises after ovulation because of the progesterone. If that's confusing to you, I'm going to reference the video where I explained the cycles and what happens in your cycle. So in the luteal phase, which is the first half of your, the follicular phase, which is the first half of your cycle, estrogen is dominant and your body temperature is cooler. After ovulation, you move into the luteal phase where progesterone is dominant and it warms your body up. So when your body rises, that means you've ovulated. When your temperature rises, that means you've ovulated, right? So there is a clear rise on your chart. You can see that rise of 3. You need it for 3 days in order to confirm ovulation. If you have it for 1 day, and then it drops back down, that's not considered ovulation. The 2 apps that I like to use are Fertility Friend, which there's a free app, there's an upgrade version, but you can use the free version when you're starting out, and Ovia also has an app. The cool thing about Fertility Friend is it will give you a hash mark to say when it guesstimates that you ovulated, which is nice. Ovia does not do that. You have to put in when you ovulate. Again, you'll know by the 3 days. It'll take a while for you to get used to it. You'll be sort of guessing for a little bit. The key thing is start charting your temperature, start seeing what your pattern is. This will help you identify when you're ovulating, right? And how long your luteal phase is. It takes a couple of months because it only is going to tell you after you ovulated, so obviously that's not helpful just for trying to conceive, so you would need an OPK test in advance if you're prepping for it. But typically your cycles are going to be the same unless there's stress involved. Luteal phase specifically doesn't fluctuate as much. Stress can impact the first half of the cycle, not so much the second half of the cycle. This is what helped me determine that I had a luteal phase defect by going through, or potentially a luteal phase defect, is by charting this. And I had like 11-day luteal phase, then 12-day, then 13. So when I was working with the acupuncturist, I was able to tell her how many days it was, because we were working to lengthen that luteal phase. You want it to be, ideally is 14 days, but we're not all ideal. But ideally it's 14 days. That's the time that you need for the little baby to implant and you to have a successful pregnancy, right? So that first 6 days, it's kind of traveling down. Then it comes down 6 days after ovulation. Then it comes down into the uterus and it starts burrowing in. So it needs time to burrow in. Once your progesterone drops at the end of your cycle, your lining is going to start to shed, which means your period is coming, right? So charting is good. It will help you learn a few key things about your body. You'll be able to see what some trends are and just give you more information about your cycle. So there we have it, charting. So there we have it, charting your temperature. That makes sense, right? If you have any questions, leave them down below. Let me know if you've heard of charting your temperature before or knew of anyone who has done it. Or if you have experience doing it, maybe you can help some of the other ladies. That would be awesome. All right, next week we are going to talk about cervix. So we'll talk about cervical mucus and charting your cervical mucus, looking for that lovely egg white cervical mucus, which means you're fertile. All right, ladies, that's all I have for you. I hope you are well. Let me know any questions you have down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Remember to share it with anyone who might find it useful. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. All right, I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Mwah. Baby dust to you all.
I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through to make those rainbows